Arizona State baseball is the subject up for discussion on this evening as we welcome you back to this installment of Dugout Chatter with Willie Bloomquist from the Mountain America Credit Union Sun Devil Radio Network. I'm Tim Healey, the radio play-by-play voice of Sun Devil Baseball and your host for this week's show. Our next guest is in his third season in charge of the Arizona State pitching staff, having come to ASU from San Diego State, where he spent 6 years as the pitching coach of the Aztecs, and the last 2 years of his tenure there, he was also San Diego State's associate head coach. He made previous coaching stops at Florida International and at Cal State Northridge, and it's always a pleasure to welcome our good friend, Coach Sam Peraza, to the show. How you doing, Sam? Good to see you, bud.
I'm doing good, Tim. Thanks for having me on.
Start by giving us, if you would, your overview of how your pitchers have performed through the first 6 weeks plus of this season.
Well, I think it was a little bit of what I expected in terms of getting better. I mentioned that in a couple of the interviews before, where last year we started off really strong. We had older guys and kind of faded at the end. This year, with everyone being so young and new to Division I pitching, whether it's the amount of freshmen we have or some of the junior college kids coming in, I think that we started slow, but I think as the last couple of weeks have come by, you could kind of see the progression that's happening, and I'm hoping it kind of carries over into the end of the year.
One thing that has been evident to us that follow the program from day one is that it's clear the arm talent that you have this year is better than the last couple of seasons. As a case in point, Arizona State by far and away is the Pac-12 leader in strikeouts and number 2 in the league behind Stanford in strikeouts per 9 innings of pitching.
Yeah, I think that was a big emphasis in the recruiting class, was to get better arms in here, try to make it more of a pitching generated school. I know ASU in my time coming up has always been known for the big hitters, and if we could get some arms in there. Now I do wish that these guys had a year of experience in their belt, but we're kind of going through those ups and downs with them right now. But like I said, I think the last couple of weeks has indicated the improvement that they're doing. So hopefully as they carry it over through the end of the year, and we could really start a foundation for pitching here in years to come.
Now, I'll preface this next topic by reiterating something that Willie Bloomquist has told us, and that is that your terrific freshman Friday night starter, Thomas Burns, will not be available this weekend because of some shoulder stiffness. But just talking about Thomas generically, Sam, it's not often that a Power 5 program entrusts its Friday night role to a true freshman, and yet you did with him, and he has not disappointed. Share with me your overview, what qualities you and Coach Bloomquist saw in Thomas that made you think he could be a Friday night guy for you.
He's just a tough kid, and he's everything that Coach Bloomquist has been wanting as far as his program goes and the identity of players and pitchers. He doesn't make any excuses. He, goes out there and competes every single time out there. He doesn't care if he's a freshman, other guys are older. He's confident that he could win any game possible. He doesn't back down from challenges, and just the toughness overall and the mindset overall that he carries over to the mound is the reason why we decided to go with him at such a young age.
Is the shoulder stiffness something that can be a short-term issue? I know a couple of weeks ago, Connor Markle took a week off in the Oregon series, then came back and has given you 2 quality starts in a row. What's your take on where Thomas is in that regard right now?
That's exactly what we're hoping for, Tim. So we gave Connor kind of a little bit of a break there because he had some stiffness, and we're going to do the same thing with Thomas. And being up in Pullman, he had a hard time getting loose in between innings. The weather was a little bit colder up there, and I think he just, that being a freshman at this point in the season, could benefit from that. And we don't want it to get any worse. We don't want put him in harm's way. The reality of it is, if you ask the kid, he could pitch through it this weekend. And we just don't want to put him in that situation and put his health and his future in our program in that scenario. So I'm hoping it's a 1-week thing. He's ready to go next weekend against Oregon State.
Speaking of Connor Markle, boy, the way he has performed since that week off, he has been tremendous. The 1-hit shutout pitching for 6 innings at Arizona that earned him Pac-12 Pitcher of the Week honors, and he followed it up with a quality effort, 6 2/3 innings, a career high, albeit in a tough 3-2 loss Saturday at Washington State. Give us your take on Connor and what's made him so effective, particularly these last 2 starts.
Well, we gave him a little break. He's come back really healthy and strong, and I think the biggest thing that makes him effective is his changeup, and he continues to learn. In the past, he reminds me so much of some of Kyle Luckham we had here, where he didn't have the success he quite wanted to at a mid-major level. And little things happen. If you look at all his outings, like he didn't really get hit. It was just little seeing-eye singles here and there, and he wasn't able to overcome it. So the biggest thing that we've talked about with Connor is just control what you could control. If a guy gets a leadoff single that happens to go, a dribbler through the infield, you won. You did your job. So you just got to continue to do your job every single time out there, and only control what you're capable of. And he's really taking that mental step to do so. I know he carries a journal around in between innings and writes down, what the inning went like for him, what was good, what was bad.
Wow.
We sit down the next day and talk about it. And I think the maturity of letting the negative stuff behind them has really helped them take a big leap here.
We're talking with Arizona State pitching coach Sam Peraza on this week's installment of Dugout Chatter with Willie Bloomquist. I'm Tim Healey, your host. And Sam, you've had two relievers who have stepped up and done outstanding work for you, a lefty and a righty. Let's talk first about the lefty, UCLA transfer Ben Jacobs. He is averaging better than 14 strikeouts per 9 innings of pitching, limiting opponents to a 176 batting average. What is your overview of how Ben has performed?
Benny's been great, and Benny needs to know that eventually he's going to be a weekend starter for us here, whether it be this year or the following year. He obviously comes back as a junior next year, but he just same thing as Connor, like just kind of learning through things. He was at UCLA last year as a freshman, but only threw 7 innings. So this is almost his freshman year. So he's got to go through the growing pains as well, and it's a lot of conversations with him after his outings, the good, the bad. Obviously, there's been more good than bad, which I continue to hope that's the case. But he's the arm talent that could be a Friday, Saturday night type of starter here in a Power Five conference, and I think he's going to get there. He's taking the process real serious and not trying to jump the gun. So I'm really happy with what Benny's done mentally so far.
Meanwhile, a right-hander from Gilbert's Campo Verde High School and Central Arizona College, Ryan Schieffer, has also been at times overpowering this year. A 1.35 ERA, a microscopic 0.95 opponent's batting average. What factors have contributed to Ryan's success?
Ryan's always been a big arm. He was a big arm out of high school. He was a big arm at GCU, and he just hasn't, and even at Central Arizona, and never quite had put it together. I think with him, it was less was more. He came in here in the fall with 5 pitches, and he doesn't need all those 5. He's got a devastating splitter. He's got a good slider, and his fastball's good. It's good. It's a plus fastball. So it was just about convincing him to take away some of the things that he some of the arsenal he came in with, and just focusing on what makes him good. And with him, it's just a classic example of less is more. And we throw that split quite a bit, and it works off his fastball well. And we talked about it, slider's his third pitch, but when you throw it, just be efficient with it. Doesn't have to be perfect with it. And he's done a nice job for us, man. I quite honestly, the numbers are just surpassing what we expected out of him. But he needs to understand that even if a tough moment happens, he gets a chance to get back on the horse and get after it.
I feel as though you have a potential ace in the hole, if you will, on your staff in another Grand Canyon transfer, Hunter Omlad, who turned in a brilliant performance March 19th, striking out 11 in 5 1/3 in a long relief win over Utah Valley, although Hunter's got a bit of a health issue this week, doesn't he, Sam? Tell us about that.
Well, the funny part is, Hunter was going to possibly replace Burns as a starter on Thursday, and he's got a little pneumonia happening. So he's just sickness, nothing major, nothing with the arm. Just he wanted to be the tough guy without the undershirt and the cold weather.
That's right.
Montana kid and Pullman, and I think he's paying a little bit of the price on it, but I'm okay with that. It showed some toughness. It showed some grit. I think it was a good point to make that he could get out there and he's not letting the elements bother him. And to your point, the biggest thing with Hunter is keep throwing the changeup, keep developing the changeup. A third pitch, he complete opposite of Schieffer. He came in with 2 pitches, fastball, slider, and he really needs a third one to keep guys off of it. And at the beginning of the year when he was getting hit around, especially by lefties. We were a 2-pitch mix, and now that he's really done a good job of working hard on the changeup, I think we're seeing the fact that we could stretch him out a little bit.
You have a great kid on your staff, and right-hander Tyler Meyer, who was one of your weekend starters 2 years ago, sat out last year recovering from labrum surgery and has struggled this year, and it seems as though physical issues still a concern there. Right, Sam?
Yeah, I think he's healthy. I think the issue that people don't see is him finding a comfortable arm slot right now in a different mix of pitches. You know, his slider feels comfortable at a certain slot where his fastball doesn't. So trying to find where the comfort level is for everything is a big physical issue for him. And obviously coming back from labrum, being a year out, mentally it's something that he's going to have to overcome as well. You know, he's looked okay. He's looked okay to good in bullpens to a fact where I feel or we felt that he could go out there and win an inning or two, and it just hasn't happened for him. You know, UNLV, I think he got 2 ground balls early. It started off how we wanted it to. They found holes, and he hasn't been able to mentally overcome that stuff right now. We're going to continue to work, though. He's a great kid, and you know, I'm confident he's going to get it. And if we could get him just to help us at some point this year, I think we'll be a better team.
Big series this weekend on Easter weekend, 3 games against a good offensive club in California. Talk about the matchup your pitchers will face against the Bears this weekend.
Tim, I feel like we're facing good offensive clubs every weekend. So it's always the pack. The pack is full of good offense. You know, I think it's going to be tough for us, especially down Thomas for the weekend. But this is when guys have to step up. We're going to have to match it up. They got some good quality players there too that played for Team USA and Green and Loma Vida, and they're really offensive. We just, you know, one of the things we preach here is we know the elements here at Muni. We know what happens. We don't have to be the best staff in the country, but we just have to be the better staff that day. So we just have to figure out a way to be better staff on Thursday than they are, better pitching staff than they are on Friday, and a better pitching staff than they are on Saturday. So if we could just do that and limit the damage, you know, I think our offense is starting to swing the bat, and we could come out on top.
Always enjoyed talking baseball with you, Sam. Thanks for stopping by and visiting with us. Best of luck to you and the club this weekend.
Appreciate it for having me on, Tim. I'll see you out there this weekend.
We'll see you at the Yard. That's Arizona State pitching coach Sam Peraza, our guest on this segment of Dugout Chatter. Coach Bloomquist will rejoin me for the final segment of this week's show in just a moment. This is Dugout Chatter with Coach Willie Bloomquist on the Mountain America Credit Union Sun Devil Radio Network.